What's up guys, it is Starforge here bringing you the Pyromancer build for the mages, which is mainly revolving around Inferno and that Necromancer build. Now we also do take Winter and the Storm Tree, but that is mainly for the late game. As you can see, I am a level 22 Mage. However, in the Winter you do want to take Winter's Grasp for an early level, due to the freeze status ability it gets and the shatter detonate ability that it allows. However, we're going to start off in the Storm Tree. Now we do have Energy Barrage. You launch a salvo of elemental blasts from your staff that homes in on the targets ahead of you. So what this does is fire 12 projectiles, each of them doing 78% weapon damage for a grand total of 936 weapon damage. This has a short cooldown of 16 seconds and a low mana cost of 46.25 mana. Now why this is a low mana cost is due to my armor. However, I believe this is a 50 mana cost ability without it. The reason we take this in this Pyromancer build is because of the detonator. So if you have a rogue or warrior that can infect sleep or stun, for the sleeped enemies it will infect nightmare on them, and for the stunned enemies it will infect weakness on them. Now I will put a link in the description and show a quick image here of the status abilities and their detonator abilities. Impact being for warriors, precision being for rogues, and this Eldrick for mages. Now we also go down to the conductive current. Now what this does is give you a 5% weapon damage bonus for every 10% missing mana, and as you are a mage constantly using your spells, constantly losing mana, this is a great ability to have to really get high damage even when at low mana. Now the main part of the Storm Tree here is the Lightning Bolt, which will summon a bolt of lightning that blasts and paralyzes a single target. And what it does is, if there are other enemies nearby, it will paralyze them for longer, exactly 2 seconds longer for each enemy. Now it has a base of 200% weapon damage, but at high level I think you should take the upgrade, which does an extra 200% damage for every creature within 4 meters. Which really makes it good for singling out one target in a big group fight. Now it does have a 60.125 mana cost. With mine, I believe it is a 65 mana cost normally, which is quite a high mana cost. However, it is a status ability that allows you to detonate it for a discharge, which is a high AoE ability, detonator ability. That is really effective, and that's why we take it. It does have the 24-second cooldown timer, which is quite long, but it's kind of usual for a status ability. Now we're going into the Winter Tree. Now we go on to Winter Grass, which I said you want to take for the freeze status ability to then get the shatter detonator ability, which is just a very high single target cold damage. Now this has a much shorter cooldown time of 16 seconds, the same mana cost, and the same initial weapon damage of 200%. It also comes with the 4 seconds freeze duration and 8 seconds chill duration, so you have 4 seconds after this to detonate the ability. The upgrade does increase the area effect for the chilled enemies. However, I don't find this necessary, as we're mainly taking Winter's Grasp just for the freeze. Now we are going down to Winter Stillness, which is a really key ability, passive, where when you're idle, after 3 seconds of being idle, your mana generation increases by 50%. Now this is key for any mage, because pretty much you're just stood there casting all your abilities, so you'll get this massive mana regen, allowing you to cast more abilities. Also in the Winter Tree is the Mana Surge. Now Mana Surge is that your barrier explodes into wild magic when enemies destroy it. So if an enemy destroys it, you will get a free spell. Your next spell will cost no mana. And it also freezes enemies for 2 seconds. Now, this build does not come with a barrier, but I always have a second mage in my party. So normally what will happen is they will put the barrier on me, and when it gets procced, I will get that. However, the problem with Mana Surge is it's not when your barrier runs out, it's when an enemy destroys it. And as a mage, you generally aren't going to be getting hit. So I take this just as kind of a last point upgrade for the mage that I took, because really I couldn't take any more abilities and I needed a good, useful passive, and that's why I took the Mana Surge. Everyone thinks it is a very good ability normally, but this passive really relies on you getting hit and also having the barrier up at that specific time, which I don't find normally is the case. Normally I'm not getting hit, and especially with this build with the amount of panics that you have. So we're going to go into the Necromancer build here, and you start off with Horror, where you unleash spirits of fear that terrify all enemies within the area, giving a panic duration of 6 seconds, area of effect being 3 meters, a cooldown time of 24 seconds, and a cost of 46.25, which again is a 50 mana cost. Now, I do think getting the upgrade is very, very good. Now, Horror inflicts even deeper terror upon targets and reduces their armor. So when a enemy is panicking, which it's named on this Horror, they take 50% weapon damage per second and have 20% reduced armor. Now this passive and upgrade is a very, very key upgrade to this tree and this build, because not only does it work for Horror, it is for when any enemy is panicked. So it won't work just with the Necromancer build, it will work with also the Inferno tree down in Wall of Fire, which I will speak about later. But we are going down the left, which gives you a very nice passive. The Necromancer has some great passives. Every time an enemy dares nearby, you gain 20 mana and 10% health. This is great. In a party that are killing lots of mobs, you will just constantly be getting this 20 mana and 10% health increase, which is a great bonus to have if an enemy is dying near you. It will really, really help, especially with the mana. If you're just gonna put down a final casted ability to kill something, then you will get that mana, 20 mana back for killing them. We're also going into Power of the Dead, where killing enemies increases your power, so you get a 20% duration, 20% damage bonus for a duration of 10 seconds. There we go. And this happens when someone dies near you. Now the great thing with this as well is the dead proc this. So if you go somewhere with undead creatures, this will just constantly be on, no matter whether you kill them or not, which is a great thing to have, increasing your damage massively against the dead. Now Blinding Terror has a increased damage bonus versus Panicked. Now this works very, very well with the Horror, which puts them into panic, as well as the Fire, Wall of Fire, putting panic into them. So you will deal 15% more damage against panicked enemies. Also going into Simulacrum, which means when you are knocked unconscious, i.e. you die, you will be able to cast spells without cost for another 10 seconds. So none of them have any cost whatsoever. They keep their cooldowns, but their costs are gone, and you can do this for 10 seconds, and then after that you can be revived. This works brilliantly because when you die, you do have that time to cast every single ability as quickly as you can and get out as much damage as possible, and then also allow the time for you to position someone else in your party to then come and revive you. This goes down to the Walking Bomb. Now Walking Bomb is a great ability where it causes 200% weapon damage per second for 10 seconds. So that's a total of 2000%. Now it does also explode at the end of it, or when they die. It will explode for 600% weapon damage with an area effect of 5 meters, a short cooldown time of 20 seconds, and the cost of 65 mana for anyone without reduced mana. Now I also do take the upgrade where when it kills your target, it blows up and spreads to nearby enemies, causing secondary explosions. So for the AoE, when one target dies, odds are many of them will die, or be reduced health, obviously, from damage. Now this is great also because with this build you can take effect of the free walking bomb without the mana surge, which is a great idea to do. However, it is not necessary to get the most damage. Now we're going into the Inferno. Now we start off with Immolate. Now Immolate, what it does is it unleashes a massive explosion, leaving the enemies in agony, burning. So it has an initial 400% weapon damage on the explosion, which is pretty quick. I think it has a tiny amount of time before the actual cast. Now it also burns them for 150% weapon damage per second for 8 seconds, which is a really nice ability to have, racking up a total of 1200% weapon damage over that time, with an area effect of 3 meters, a short cooldown of 16 seconds, and a 32 mana cost, which I believe is around 35 mana. Now this is also a detonator ability, so it can get those sleep and stunned enemies to proc Nightmare and Weakness. But we are also taking the upgrade where it burns them hotter and has a shorter cooldown, so the cooldown is reduced by 4, so then you only have a 12-second cooldown, which is really great. You do an extra 100% weapon damage and an extra 75% weapon damage per second, so really you are doing a lot of damage for a short cooldown, low mana cost ability that is also a detonator. Now we're also going into Flashpoint, where when you land a crit, your next spell doesn't trigger a cooldown period, and as you know, that can be very useful for very high amounts of damage, allowing you to cast any spell twice simultaneously. It also works great with Wall of Fire. Having 2 Wall of Fires down is really good. And we'll go down to the clean burn, so your spells basically reduce all of your other spells by 1 second, making all of those long and short cooldowns even shorter, allowing you to cast more and more abilities, which is great. That allows us to go down to Wall of Fire, which is one of the best abilities in this build, and the reason is why, because it does this fear duration of 6 seconds, which obviously procs the horror. So when you put the Wall of Fire down, they will be panicking and then getting the additional damage from the fear. Now it is 6 meters, however I do upgrade it to get it 3 meters and have more damage duration of 4 seconds. So then it lasts longer. The duration is 20 seconds by itself, however it says it gets upgraded by another 4 seconds for 24 seconds. Now it does have a cooldown timer of 32 seconds, however by the time it's run out that is pretty low. The burning duration is 12 seconds, and for that 12 seconds you are doing 200% weapon damage, which gives a really high 2400% weapon damage in total, with a low mana cost of 35 mana, which is it's just a crazy ability. Really good ability to have, and if you use it with Flashpoint, it's fantastic for this build. It is one of the main key abilities. Now we do take Chaotic Focus for that barrier when you get that from the Mage. However, this was also a late ability point that I took. Now a lot of people would say that if you go into the Spirit, take the barrier, which is say 4000, and then use that 50% of that to increase your spell's damage. It does really help. However, I find that every other ability I have on my abilities are much better than trying to just empower the abilities, because you can just get a second mage or even a third mage to then keep your barrier up to be able to get this Chaotic Focus. Now we also go into Pyromancer, which is great for the Necromancer synergy, for the fact that you get a 25% bonus duration on your fear and burning, so you're doing more and more and more damage. So everything lasts longer, which is great. Now this allows us to go into the insane high damage Fire Mine ability, which does a crazy 1600% weapon damage instantly. It does have an activation delay of 3 seconds, so you've got to make sure those mobs aren't moving, or set it up in front of you so that when they come to you or one of your allies, it blows up. Now it does have a cooldown timer of 24 seconds and a low mana cost of 35, but it's just such a high damage ability that can destroy mobs. And then you also definitely want the Searing Glyph, so then for an extra 8 seconds it does 200% weapon damage for that 8 seconds per second, so you get an extra another 1600. So overall, after those 8 seconds, you will have done 3200% weapon damage with this one Fire Mine. Now that is all of the skills shown. So now I'm going to go into a little fight here at the end to show you this with one tank in a fight. So here we are in the new zone with 22 level mobs. So these are the exact same level with just the tank with me. So here we are going to put the Fire Mine on the archer because he will just stay there, and also putting a firewall, and as you can see it blew up, dealing pretty much half its health, and the other two archers got panicked. Now I did paralyze that bruiser and then get him the discharge. Also they're sending a panic onto two of the archers and sending out an energy rush of some high single target damage, nearly killing the archer. So my tank is taking away the brute force while I'm taking down the bowman as quickly as possible, as well as using my pots to stay alive and using the fire mines to get the quick burst damage out on them, as well as energy barrage. You can see that finish off that last target. Now here we are, I'm gonna go in and freeze the bruiser and then use the lunge, which completely missed. Absolute fail there. But anyway, we are gonna go back in and try and do it again. So here is with the paralyze, and then the discharge there went off. No need for the freeze, although the freeze did go on him as he died. Now just to finish off the bowman that I already basically killed, and that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.